Are you alive? Are you listening to a podcast right now? Well, you're in luck because today's episode, we have a free form episode. We're going to be talking about whatever's going on in our lives. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy? It's healthy to sometimes talk about what's going on.
It reminds people that other people are people too.
It's weird, right? Do you know what's
Hmm.
funny? Like, I never forget that the study that said, like, you know, we think of ourselves as we have this whole like internal life, dialogue and all, but we don't think of other people that way. And I know most people are like, yeah, I do. No, but that's not true. You see other people. No, this is the truth, right? You see other
No.
people as they're just like extras in your show. That's a good way to think about it. And I was saying this in my class because the class is a great example of that where everybody comes in, they sit down, they do their thing, but each person has their own life. But we don't ever think about that own life, which is why we so many times step on each other's toes and stuff. Yeah, it's just funny.
Hmm.
I forget where the hell we were going. I just mentioned that. I just think it's
Well, I
interesting.
mean, that's an important thing because everybody is a person. And like I
Yeah.
was just looking at it walking down the street the other day during rush hour, seeing everybody carrying their backpacks and briefcases and purses and everything like that. And it's like everybody's carrying their little life with them to go
Yeah.
somewhere, to do something, to go home. And I was like, I wonder how much comfort that little backpack and all those little things in there gives people to do that.
It's their little like safety net. Their
Hmm.
little like emergency bag. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is funny. It does give us confidence and comfort. People panic when they lose their wallet and stuff. I know,
Yeah, because
mostly because it's so hard to get everything back.
yeah.
They don't make it easy. It's like you can't
Yeah.
get that without your license. You don't have your license? Oh well.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think I wanted to do a freeform episode today because I've been struggling with some stuff. Uh, Sometimes wanting to punch people who are on their phones. Sometimes,
It happens.
oh my gosh, sometimes, sometimes second guessing my own judgment. Like that's a
Yeah.
difficult one recently. Knowing, because it's kind of like knowing the times when I should trust my judgment and knowing the times when I should second guess my judgment and not make a rash judgment.
That's a good one. Yeah. Actually sit back and think about it instead of just going with
Hmm.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'll give you a bit more behind
Okay.
that second guessing my judgment.
All right.
So I've read a few books recently where they expound on the benefit of going to a counselor, like seeking therapeutic care, whatever it is.
Yeah,
So
whatever.
I've been going
Okay.
to one for probably like maybe 4 to 6 months at this point, and right now the person frustrates the heck out of me. Like it's
Yeah.
there. I don't know. I don't know if this is part of the therapeutic process or if this is just me working through stuff, but it seems like they're intentionally pushing my buttons, and I'm doing everything I can not to just rage quit.
How many counselors did you try before you found this person?
Well, this is the first one this time. I've seen counselors before, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
never
yeah,
had
obviously.
these. I never had these issues with counselors before. Like, I mean, not that sex means anything, but my counselors before were female. This is the first time it's a male counselor,
Hey, it
and
might though, because you never know. You might find it easier to talk to somebody of the opposite sex.
but
Who the hell
but
knows? That is
also also
possible.
I don't think I've ever gone to counseling for this long a period of time. And my
Uh,
goal, like before when I went to counseling, it was because like I had just been broken up with, or I was feeling shitty, or winter blue, like anything. And but
yeah.
it was usually like from my memory, of course, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was probably 3 to 6 months, and
Yeah, just
done.
dealing with something
Insurance stops
specific
paying
issue.
for it, and
Yeah,
you're done.
that's
Now
not
it's like I
interesting.
actually wanted to deal with some stuff in my life, like stop having these recurring issues come up in my life, or at least be able to handle them better. And so, we've dealt with, I guess we've kind of gotten to the point where we've dealt with the surface issues, and now it's like the stuff underneath. And now the past couple of weeks, I just want to be like, you know what? That's it. We're freaking done. I can't believe you're a professional. Like, get the heck out of here.
That's the hard stuff, though, is dealing with that's the hard stuff. So it makes sense you're gonna like butt heads more. It's
Mhm.
tough because I think this is an issue I think a lot of people have. Like, at least personally, like when I try to find a counselor, I try to find somebody like will push back against my rationalizations, obviously, and not just like you don't want somebody that's just gonna like be a yes man, because then that's not really helpful, right? You want help,
Hmm.
obviously. So you need somebody
Hmm.
to help and push back, but it's got to be done also in a way where you don't get angry about it either. It's got to be
Hmm.
like it shouldn't feel personal. So it could be that maybe you just, it might be that you need to find somebody else. That's always possible. Because I mean, I know plenty of people that like it takes them a while to find the right person, especially when
Hmm.
they're doing long term. Like, you have to switch a lot. It could be that like this person might have
Yeah.
been good for like the easy stuff in the beginning, maybe not good for this, or maybe it's just that you're dealing with stuff that's deeper level and you don't want to, and so
Hmm.
it feels threatening. Or he's just
Hmm.
an asshole. Could also be the case.
Right. So
That's also totally possible.
that's where I get to. Am I just, am I second guessing? Should I trust my instincts and just go find somebody else? Should I second guess myself? Should I give it some time? Because I kind of
I
see,
think,
I mean, clearly there's a number of possible solutions. So one, there's rage quit, which is just nice and easy. The second is there's stick it out, which is, not great, but that's what I do. See, that's also a thing where I just keep my head down and power through. Like that's how I
yeah,
get
but
through a lot
see,
of stuff in life.
that's
And so I
not,
don't
I
think
mean,
that's
that's
a great
good.
one either.
No, that's not a good habit. It's good to have sometimes. It is definitely beneficial sometimes. You got to do that, but like not always. And I think in this context, think of it like this, right? Like you're paying this person for a reason. If you're not getting the goal that you're seeking from it, granted, it takes work because you're going to counseling. So a lot of it's on you, obviously. But if you're not seeing that progress, they're not helping you.
Hmm.
So go see somebody else. I mean, I think that's the easiest way
That's
to
a
look at
good point.
counseling. Like, I'm
Hmm.
not saying like, and this is why I think like people, they shouldn't just support your BS either, obviously. But like,
Yeah.
if you don't feel like you're resolving things, you should see
Hmm.
somebody else or address it with
Yeah.
them and see if that changes it. That's the other
Hmm.
option too, if you
Yeah.
want to give them a chance.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the feeling that I've been having recently is I feel like I'm putting in the work, but I'm like they're not helping me get to my goals.
Have you
So
addressed it with them? Have you asked them about it?
I
Like,
I
talked to them?
talked about it last week. I'm going to talk about it again this week
Be like, look,
because
dude, if you want to
if
keep your job,
because it was like I talked about it last week when there was an incident the week before, and
okay.
then and I had been bringing it up for a while where it's like, am I making any progress here? I don't feel like I'm making any progress, that type of thing. And then there was an incident that I brought up, and then right after the incident, they just did something that was just like so grating that I was just like,
Then
yeah.
maybe you need to find
So
somebody else.
yeah,
It's also tough,
probably.
it's also hard too because this is the kind of stuff like at least I mean my personal experience. Like when you're dealing with the deeper issues, they do take a while to work out too. But
Hmm.
you need somebody in your corner to do that, right? I'll
Mm.
be honest, yeah. I haven't been to counseling in a while since we started doing this, I stopped going because it just felt like it
Hmm.
wasn't. I don't
Yeah.
I do okay with counseling sometimes. Sometimes I don't because I'm like sometimes I just start make it a game and then it's not helpful for me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I also, like I wanted. So there were three books, I think. There was Will Smith talked about in his book, where like he went to some counseling. It was very good. His biography or autobiography. There was also Finding Me, which was the Oprah's book list book, and then there was Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. So all three of those books like talk about the benefits of
Everybody
counseling
poops.
and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And like and how long duration counseling can be very good because it can
Oh
help you
yeah,
deal with
yeah.
some of your issues that have been around for a long time. And so I was like, it's interesting that we did an episode on like how to deal with disappointment because I've been dealing with disappointment recently where like I had very high expectations for this.
Yeah.
And initially, maybe not very high, but I had positive expectations for
A
this.
good feeling from
We'll
the
say
guy
that.
too and
We'll
all. Like,
say
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
initially, and like I gave him the benefit of the doubt in the beginning. I
Well,
was like, we're just getting to know each other. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Whatever.
that's a hard person. You have to get to know each other. They're also a
Hmm.
person. So God
Yeah,
knows what's going on in his life because it's not like counselors are like,
they're
impervious
not
to like,
robots.
yeah, I know, right? They're not AI.
Mhm.
I deal
Yeah.
with a real person. Yes, I mean that's hard too. But like if it's ongoing, and it does, it's hard because like that long-term counseling can be really helpful. I know a lot of people that have benefited greatly from it, but it does take a long time. And like you do have to find the right person. I think that's the other thing.
Hmm.
Like it is
Yeah.
difficult. It's a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah. So who
Here's
knows how
another
long that
question.
is? Uh,
Let me ask you this, just because just throw it out there since we're talking about this stuff anyway. Are there some things we shouldn't deal with? Like, because like, okay, look, here's my thinking. I'll explain more so people understand, I guess. You know, counseling can be very helpful. It's good to get these things out and talk about it. It's good to talk with other people about it, right? Whatever, work through your problems. Are there some problems that we don't need to address, do you think? Like, is some stuff
Yeah,
just not necessary? Just let it go. Be done with it.
yeah.
Move on.
Well, I think that yes, and also it depends. So one, I think that yes, there are some things you don't talk about. Like I don't talk about my sexual whatever with my parents. I just don't, you know, don't talk
Yeah,
about that
not
because I
necessary.
don't want to hear what they have to say about it. And you know,
Don't
all
want
of
their
that.
advice.
And like I've made up my mind about that a while ago because they pry. Like, and so I was just like, no, I'm not talking about this with you. So I think there are some things that, you just don't talk about. But then again, it's also really important not to keep secrets. Like
Yeah.
I was reading somewhere, some book, it was talking about how this was another Oprah's book. Okay.
Knocking out
So
the Oprah's book list.
yeah, I
Damn.
know, right? Dude, they're incredible books. I think I'm going to start like an Oprah's book club. But it was called Hello Beautiful. That was the name of the book. And they were talking about basically this guy, I'm not going to spoil the story, but this guy got really depressed and part of it was because he was keeping secrets, you know? And so like they're like you can't keep secrets. That's going to destroy you. Like any secrets that you have, write them down and then talk with someone you can trust about them. And it does make sense because you look at some of these like the 12-step programs, a lot of them have where you basically write down everything you've done, discuss it with God, with yourself and with a trusted party, another person.
Well, it
And
makes
so
sense too, especially like addiction, you get in a habit of lying. So it's like, yeah, you want to open that up. Yeah,
mhm.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's good to I think it's good to not have so like while there are some things that maybe you shouldn't address, like I won't address my whatever I do in sex with my parents because it's like not a conversation I want to have. I
Yeah.
don't keep secrets. So like the things that I do, they're not secrets from people who I can actually discuss those things with.
No, that's fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it does. It feels like no, you're right. I think when you keep secrets, it feels like that weight on your shoulder, like when you're avoiding things. I mean, because you're avoiding something, obviously, when you're doing
Hmm.
that. So it's
Hmm.
just like when you're avoiding paying bills or something or dealing with a big problem. Once you face it, the weight lifts off. It feels good, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your thought on that?
I think something I don't know, I struggle with this. I think some things like are better just like some things I just don't want to talk about. Like I just rather would move forward. And I think it's
Hmm.
healthier for me just to not. Like you know what I mean? Like I know it's not that I think and I should be clear, it's not that I don't it's not denial or not admitting it. It's just that I don't feel any reason to talk about it, I
It's kind of
guess.
like making it a non-issue. This is another thing
Yeah.
that I was thinking about was
Yes.
like
Yeah.
maybe this is just a couple weeks that are off and I just need to set the little let go switch and then just
Yeah.
move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the problem though, because it's tough. Because like I said, like I would look at it like again, accounts are there's a goal, right? So it's goal oriented. You want help, obviously, with whatever the hell you're
Hmm.
dealing with.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you're not making progress, you've addressed it with the person, then maybe it's time to move on. But there's no harm in giving it some time and seeing, because like
Hmm.
they are the person. It might be that he had a couple bad days or whatever, and you just
Yeah.
happen to catch him, whatever, who
I
knows?
also see a little bit of laziness on my part here. So like there's me
Well, we
not
want
wanting
somebody
to
else to
have to
fix our
try.
problems all the time.
Well, it's not so much that. It's like I don't want to have to go and find another counselor and deal with the whole like building up the beginning of it again. I have the same issue with my accountant who I can't every year tax season, I literally can't stand the guy. And then, 9 months go by and he's the guy I have on my phone, so I call him to do my taxes. And it's
Yeah,
like
it's
and then
easy.
I instantly regret it. And but it's like finding going through the work to find an accountant that I
Yeah.
can trust and use and whatever. And yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy. It isn't.
Hmm.
Well, that's like, I don't think it's even, yeah, I think it's gotten harder in a lot of ways to find good people for things because there's like
Hmm.
so many options, and it's like, I don't know, it just makes it very difficult. And counselors are tough because you do. Like, I feel like the last time I went, I feel like I got really lucky. Like, I found somebody I really liked.
Hmm.
And, it's hard. It is hard. And
Hmm.
sometimes, even if you really like them, they might not be
Like
good
you.
at all. Well, yeah, right. Well, yeah, they might not like you. They might not be good at all the issues you got too. That's the other problem. 'Cause
Yeah.
some of them are really, I think some of them are better at certain things and than others, and that can
Uh-huh.
be a challenge too.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Because they bring their own perspective, their own interpretations, their own biases to the table. Everybody does. You can't help that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's,
Yep. Yeah. And then I have my own interpretations of what a professional should be like, and that comes into
yeah, he might
yeah.
think you're a little bitch.
Hmm. Probably. He probably does. And so then the other, oh my gosh, sometimes people with their phones just,
Oh
man,
God, I know.
I like the I was sitting in an area that had like these signs up all over this place that said quiet please. And there's a dude right next to me, instead of typing into his phone, was talking into his phone everything. And I literally just wanted to like take his phone and throw it at the
Yeah.
wall. And then there
He's
was
like, yo, I'm
and
using dictation, bro. Come on.
dude, and then I was in the locker room the other day, and there's these signs up all over the place, no cell phones, like big pictures of phones with a big like no on it. And there's a dude just like typing away on his phone, like again talking into the phone, and I'm like, I just wanted to, I don't know, smack the guy upside the head. So like I have these issues that come up too, frustrations with dealing with people,
I think everybody has frustrations dealing with
particularly
people,
around
though.
phones.
Yeah. It is
Yeah.
frustrating, though. I find it sad, too, actually. Very sad. Because it's like you see just the barrier between everyone now. And it's like, it's funny, like so many times where like I've been like, because I don't usually, I'm not on my phone very much at all, to be honest. I don't scroll through stuff very often. And so like if I'm in line or something, like I'll talk to people a lot of times just because I'm bored and I want to kill time, especially if it's a long wait. This happened at the grocery store last time. I remember I just happened to say something to this woman that was behind me, older woman, and she was so happy to talk. And I was like, it's sad. I thought about it afterwards. I was like, that's sad. How happy she was to talk just because there was like 30, 40 people online. I was the only one having a conversation. And it wasn't about anything important. It was about like the weather or whatever, whatever was going on. I forget what, I don't even remember it. But the point is, like, it's sad because, like, most people are just like this the whole time and don't even
Hmm.
register. You're in your own
Yeah.
little bubble. And I feel like,
You made her day.
yeah, and what's sad too, because like that wall people put up, this is why there's now counselors for how, or coaches for how to talk to people and stuff. Because like people, they're afraid to make that like to call like a delivery service. You know what I mean? Like to make phone calls
Hmm.
and stuff. It's crazy because like they're so used to
Hmm.
their phone. If they can't do it without interacting with the person, they won't do it.
Hmm. Dude, I still remember the first text message I ever got. I was like, it confounded me because I was like, what the heck is this? What am I supposed to do with this?
I remember that. I remember when I got the first one. I was like, how do I respond to this? And then when I realized that you had to hit like, because that was back when you only had the numbers, on the phone.
Yeah, you
You
had
had to hit like,
nine numbers that each
yeah, you
number
had to
had
hit
like
like
four
nine, like
letters.
10 times to get to like whatever. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
forget this. I'm gonna call him. This
yeah,
is way too hard. Like,
dude, so crazy.
yeah.
Times have changed. So what's going on in your life?
Well, so let me think. Recently, I guess, most recently, I've been so like I mentioned this before where I like I sway in my concentration is very focused, but I tend to sway between things and it just happens. I've been living with this forever, so it's not a big deal. But like there's all these things I want to start now, and like I want to pull a trigger on them, but at the same time, I can't tell if I'm holding myself back and not doing it just because I'm being lazy or like, dude, it's not the right time. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's never a right time for things. I know that, and I think that's a
Hmm.
bad way to think. Like, because you'll just never do anything. But then there's other
Hmm.
stuff like I'll give you an example. So like I have a summer session coming up, so I'll have classes. So it's gonna be kind of condensed and kind of, not hard work, but like, it's a lot. But I want to start some other projects. So like I'm trying to decide like, do I start them? Just start them now? Because like who cares? And just do it. Do I wait? But I'm afraid if I wait, then I won't do it. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, that's got to be difficult because there's no clear-cut answer, right?
No, never
Yeah,
is.
that stuff bothers the heck out of me.
And like,
So what?
oh, well, I was gonna
Hmm.
say the other thing about it is like I never know if I'm like this will sound, I guess, dude, like doing enough. You know what I mean? Like it's
Hmm.
Like, I feel like I do a
Ooh.
lot, right? But I never know if I'm
Hmm.
doing enough. How the hell do you know
Hmm.
if you're doing enough?
Oh, well, that's a great question. Let me give you a couple anecdotes. So, I was listening to Martha Beck's podcast, called Bewilderment, I
Oh
think.
yeah, it's pretty good, by the way. I did check it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
And so she was talking about how, uh, she went to, she went to a thing with Byron Katie, who, you remember, she has the four questions like, is this true?
Oh
Can
yeah,
I
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
know
yeah,
this
yeah.
is true? And so
I feel like I
she
read
went
about
to
her
a
recently.
session with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we read about her in the book,
Oh, right, right. Yeah.
right,
Start
yeah,
from zero. Yeah.
exactly. Bingo. And so she went to this thing, and Byron Katie was having like a mastermind there with some people, and she asked the audience, she's like, what's the most pressing problem that you have right now that's like really eating on your consciousness? And there's this Hollywood film director who's probably one of the most decorated film directors in Hollywood, who has like tons of screenplays he's written, all these different things, probably the most prolific one out there. And he raises his hand and he says, I feel like I'm not getting enough done.
Yeah, right. Like,
And Martha Beck, who in her own right is a prolific writer, she has written at least a handful of books,
yeah.
uh, and very good ones at that. She's like, if this guy feels like he hasn't gotten enough done, there is no hope for me. Like, I
Yeah.
might as well just give up now. And it's a good point. And actually, I'm glad you asked that, because I did just finish reading this book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Very good book. Okay. So we live in a society that basically like breeds hurrying. Like, we always
Yeah.
think like we're not getting enough done. You remember before cell phones, there was this thing called boredom.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, no, that's
doesn't
just yeah,
exist.
but
Yeah.
this is it. Like, so I don't mind being bored, and like I always set time aside. So I try not to do stuff all day, you know. But like, at the
Mhm.
same time, it's like, yeah, everybody suffers from it too. You don't want to wait too long either for stuff to happen. Like, because when you have your mind set on something, you just want it to be now. And I think that
Mhm.
you're right. I think that is in part due to technology and cell phones, and our expectations have changed. Like, you used to go to the brick and mortar stores because delivery took so long. Now with logistics and crap and with all these delivery companies and warehouses next door, it takes, less than 24 hours. So it's like our expectations have changed dramatically. And we see all these stories now of people going from broke to like billionaire at like 12, or whatever the hell age they are,
Mhm.
And so it's like, yeah, I think that is a huge, huge issue. I recognize that. But at the same time, too, it's like I also don't want to wait, you know? Like, and it's
I
like
see how hurry is a problem for everyone else, but I don't want to wait.
I don't want to wait.
That
It's
makes
like
a
I
ton
want
of
it
sense.
now.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
conflict,
I
So,
get you. Well, what would make one of the answers clear for you? When was the last time you had something where the answer was so clear that you were just like, boom, let's do it?
well, that's just it. I think the answer is clear on all these things that I'm thinking about. So it's not that I'm not gonna. This is the issue. It's not that I'm not gonna do them. Definitely gonna do all of them. It's just I don't know when to like do them. I think maybe I just
Hmm.
need to reflect on it more and like write it down and think about like the order in which to do them is part of it.
Well, what's stopping you from doing it now that you're teaching the class?
Oh yeah, more just like trying to finish. I have to finish up a couple of things, and maybe that's also the problem. I need to get because I'm almost done the one freelance project I was working on. That's like pretty much done. I just need to finish it. So I think I just need to finish that
Uh,
first, get that out of the way, and then I can move on.
you
I think that's
remember
part.
that thing that
Actually, I
we
think that is
heard?
what.
Yeah, you remember that thing that we heard where stress is usually caused by knowing what we need to do and not doing it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And well, and this is my problem too, because I mean, I'm sure everybody does this, right? You like divert your attention in order to keep going without having to finish things, and it's like because it's also
How can I start these new projects without finishing up that old one that I need to finish?
the only here's the other problem with the only it's like it's fun and it's like done. The annoying part is the end. And
Hmm.
that's what I don't feel like
Yeah,
doing. So it's like, yeah. And it's
usually
probably true. I'm probably just putting it off. Yeah.
Hmm,
That's true. There you go. I
that
just
could be
solved my
it.
problem. Now I'm
Bam.
pretty positive that's it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. Yeah, you can
I
knock
just
that
finished
out
that.
and then you're free to do
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Yeah. I'll be done it and I can literally knock it out like tomorrow. I'm really realistically.
Uh-huh.
This is how bad it is. This is how bad putting it off is. I could probably do it one day finish it and then it'll take a couple days to finally, resolve everything
But
if
that's
that's
pretty
okay.
awesome.
Yeah,
and then you
yeah,
can do whatever the heck you want.
yeah. And I gotta do other
Hmm.
stuff. This is the other
Hmm.
problem though, because then when you finish something, then you gotta start something else. So it's like every time you do finish something, it's like you got
Hmm.
stuff to do.
It's never ending.
Yeah,
That's it. I was sold this whole happily ever after dream when I was a kid, and
I
so
know.
far,
It's like no.
totally not coming true. Has never been a happily ever. It's
We
been
know
a
what
happily ever 1 or 2 days.
yeah. Well, what kills me too is like I feel very lucky that I have a lot of interests, and I also feel like trapped by all these interests. Because like there's
Hmm.
so many things like I want to do, and like time, you can't do everything. You can only do some things. It's like I have all these ideas, and like I'm trying to, you want to do them, and I know like you get faster at doing things, yes, and all that, but like it's just hard to figure out. It's just very difficult sometimes to like work through all of them or find time to do them all well, you know. And that's where the balancing comes in because sometimes you have to do some things first and other things second so that you can like do them appropriately, and it's hard, very
Mm.
hard. Life is
Yeah,
hard.
yeah. Oh, there's no denying that. Life is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And recently I've been reading some books that are scaring the piss out of me. That's not great. But even the fantasy book that I was or sci-fi book that I was reading before I went to sleep last night, it ended. I was tired, so I was like, I'm just gonna finish this chapter and then I'll go to sleep. And so I got to the end of the chapter and it was like a cliffhanger, and it's like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
I do that
even
all the
that.
time reading where I stay up way too late because I want to like get to a good point to stop. But most
Uh,
chapters don't end that way. So it's like,
no,
because they want you
I
to keep
know.
reading.
Yeah, you got to just stop in the middle of a chapter somewhere where
Yeah.
you're bored, and then that's
Sometimes
the
that's a
one.
good place. Yeah. Yeah. I
Hmm.
have a hard time with that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Crazy.
then, yeah, the holidays coming up soon, 4th of July. How
Yeah.
about that? By the time this episode airs, it'll already be over.
I
People have
know.
been done barbecues
Crazy.
and stuff like that. Can you believe the summer's almost over?
No. It just started.
I know. It's not almost over. But it
It
will,
just,
but it
it
always
just
goes by.
happened. I know.
It always goes by before you know it.
Well, it's also the problem too. I think school like drilled it in our head too that summer starts like earlier than it really does. It's really spring, that we think
Hmm.
of as summer. So yeah,
Hmm.
like late spring to
Yeah.
autumn.
Hmm.
It is what it is. It's hard. It's
Hmm.
hard being a human being. We're all trying to make it,
Certainly
and the
is.
world keeps changing around us. So it's like you feel like it's difficult.
I feel like this has got to be the hardest time ever to be alive. But then again,
Oh
I'm
God.
just being a drama queen.
It's funny though. But it's funny. I was remember this is a long time ago. I remember reading this, but like every generation thinks that it's the hardest time to be alive when they're alive, and they also think the world's going to end when they're alive. Did you know that? That's like
Mm,
more common to think that it's going to end now. And granted, now I feel like now it is like
I
probably
know.
closer to true than ever.
They weren't right, but this time it's gonna
This
end.
time it's definitely well, we keep seeing everything's burning and stuff. It's not a good sign, for like longevity. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is funny.
Oh my gosh. You watched what was it? Ancient Apocalypse. You told me
Yeah,
about that thing. Yeah, dude,
dude.
because he was like, yeah, the last time they had this society that didn't respect the earth, like dumping plastics into the
Boom.
ocean, boom, huge ice age. I'm like, man, we are
Well,
in
it's
for it.
funny too. Like there was this NASA scientist, I think it was a NASA, two NASA scientists, but they did this study anyway where they were just asking broad questions like if like there was ever like an advanced society on Earth, how would you know if they were gone like thousands of years later, right? Because none of our stuff is going to stay, like our buildings and all that. It's all just going to turn back into basically rubble. You wouldn't notice. You wouldn't be
Hmm.
able to. Plastic's not going to hang around forever. So
Hmm.
thousands of years, tens of thousands of years later, we find. And what they looked at was like one thing you do leave behind is spikes. Like in the, when they look at like soils and stuff, they can tell like how the atmosphere was. And so they can look back and tell like 65 million years ago or whatever that like there was more greenhouse gases or whatever. The temperature was different, right? And so they said that's what and like we've changed the environment enough that like they should be able to tell that, which is kind of impressive,
Hmm.
right? That would be probably the thing that people would be able to find tens of
And
thousands of years
plastic.
later. Yeah, and plastic. That too.
And polyester, a bunch of Lululemon yoga pants.
Yeah. And
That.
like there's like little tight cars. Those will be the things that hang around.
I know. What do humans contribute to society? Plastic.
Plastic,
Spiking
mostly
greenhouse gas.
plastic.
Yeah. But you know
Yeah.
what? It's nice to see how quickly things can bounce back. Because if you remember during COVID, when like people were locked in for whatever, all of a
Oh, yeah.
sudden, all these animals were showing up in places they hadn't been seen
Yeah.
forever, and
Yeah.
like the world was getting better. The skies were clear. I still remember like a few months into COVID, sitting outside and being like, "Holy cow! There's no planes going overhead," and it
Yeah, it
was
was
like the
so
first time in
quiet.
forever.
Dude, I know. I live right by like what, 6 airports, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, they're literally, no, literally all like you can hear planes all day, every day.
Uh-huh.
Because you get the little ones, because there's a bunch of little airports, you get the Cessnas, but you also get the jets. Because it's like
Mhm.
three international airports, like very close. So they
Yeah.
circle here. And dude, I remember I was outside one day when that happened. I was like, why is it so quiet? Like, and I realized it was the planes. You can't hear the planes anymore. It was weird. Yeah.
Mhm.
It was nice. But they also, too, there was places where like people like there was a city in India I remember reading about where like they saw mountains for the first time in 30 years because the
Holy
pollution
crap.
dropped so much from not having the cars and stuff and everything. I was like, that is nuts. Think about
That's
that.
gotta be crazy.
Yeah, there was people that were 29 years old that had never seen those mountains.
They're like,
Like,
what's that thing there over on
yeah,
the horizon?
like
Was that always there?
that's nuts. Yeah,
Dude,
it's
that's
crazy.
crazy. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So like that's something that, the daily stress of life, is life gonna be hard? Is it gonna get better? Is it gonna be worse? Is the world gonna end? Man.
Just gotta laugh about it too
Mhm.
sometimes, I think, too. 'Cause things are okay too. It's I waver back and forth from that because like I feel really good about so many things and like I'm very positive most of the time and I feel like it's helpful. You gotta be because like what else are you gonna do? And like, but then you just it's like it's life, right? So it just changes back and
Mhm.
forth. There's all this contradiction in life and it just is what it is.
It's
Can't fix
the
everything.
yeah, the just for today thing. Like sometimes you just gotta
Yeah,
take one day at a time. Yeah.
like every day you gotta take you can only
Every
take
day.
one day
Every
at
day.
a
I
time.
know. And I keep trying to live out my whole darn life all at
I
once. And
know.
really, it's just one day at a time is all I can do.
That's the trap though, right? Because your imagination and planning, that is the danger. Is like, and now it's been part of my problem too, because I've been like, I want to move and I want these things to happen. But like when I start to think it all out logically, that's when it gets overwhelming and then you don't know what to do. But when you think about it daily, it's like you know what to do today. Just do that
Yeah, it's
today.
like I
And
can
then
survive today.
yeah,
That's all I have
yeah.
to do. But I
And I'll
keep
get
thinking,
there.
oh no, I got to do it
Yeah,
all today.
that's the problem. Yeah, that is it.
Mhm.
It's mostly it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, that's a
Well, I
good
feel
place to
better.
end it. I know. So do I. Just got to survive
Good.
today.
All right. We'll stop
All
there
right.
then.
Well, yeah. Danny, it's been a pleasure. If you guys enjoyed that, make sure to like, share,
Always.
subscribe. Also, if you did like it, leave some nice ratings, maybe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to join us next week. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Andy.